Hey there, Heather. Hello there, Jeff Hockey. Back to the Stone Cold Hockey 24-25 tournament with 32 teams battling it out. Our goal leaders are Seth Jarvis, David Pasternak, and Alex Ovechkin with 10 points wise. It's Connor McDavid with 28, Dylan Strom with 20, David Pasternak 18. Goals against Phil Gustafson 6 for 6 with a pair of shutouts. Kevin Pickard for Edmonton 5-0. He's undefeated. Well, Jake Ottinger, great stuff, and Dustin Wholl 6-2. Bracket is this. We're down to 8 teams. The Carolina Hurricanes took care of Tampa in 7 games on home turf, and then took care of Boston in 6. Dallas took care of LA in game 7, despite almost being a victim of a reverse sweep. They weren't. They swept Ottawa, doing what they needed to do. Sweep. Calgary made it in after beating Columbus in 5 in the Johnny Gaudreau Cup, and the Sharks in 6. Taking out Celebrini. Anaheim swept Utah and then took on the New York Rangers, beat them in game 7 thanks to Carter Gauthier. And I know Ranger fans are going to be pissed off with me. The Minnesota Wild, they took care of Vancouver in 5 and Seattle in 5, so they've been breezing. Washington had to come back from 3-0 down in game 7 to beat Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh and then took out Colorado 5. Toronto took out Florida in 5. Why they did it in video game form and not in real life, it's beyond me. And then they took care of St. Louis in 6. The Oilers drop took care of the Devils in 5 and Philly in 4. And I think they have the least losses. Anyway, we're down to 8 teams. We'll simulate till we drop, if you will. Dallas Carolina game 1 sees Dallas win. They call it the Renton Bowl because Renton didn't play for Carolina for like 13 games. They went to Dallas. Dallas wins 3-1. Auditor beats Kokachev. Libukushin, Dadonov, and Duchesne scoring for Dallas. Seth Jarvis for Carolina. Game 1 of Washington, Minnesota, as Minnesota wins 2-1. Marc-Andre Fleury in the end against Charlie Lindgren. Washington got a goal by Pierre-Luc Dubois, but Kaprizov and Ryan Hartman made it 2-1. Game 1 of Edmonton, Toronto. Toronto goes to Edmonton and wins 4-2 as Stoller beats Skinner. Edmonton goes by Nuge Hopkins and Brett Kulak. Toronto goes by Bobby McMahon, Nate Robertson, Willie Nylander, and Steven Lorentz. He is a Kitchener native, but I don't say Kitchener because he was not a Kitchener Ranger. Game 1 of Anaheim, Calgary. Calgary wins 5-4. Wolf beats Gibson. Kitchener. That's a Kitchener. Calgary goes by Carantero, Backlund, Sari, Anderson, and Uyghur. Anaheim goes by Troy Terry, Cutter Gauthier, shut up Cutter, Leo Carlson, and Seagrass. But the Ducks lose 5-4. Game 2 sees Minnesota again win 2-1. So Minnesota goes home with a 2-0 series lead. Gustafson over Lindgren, giving up goal to Tom Wilson with like 30 seconds left. Freddie Gaudreau and Kaprizov for Minnesota. Game 2 of Edmonton Toronto. Edmonton split that one. Skinner beats Stollers. Toronto goal by Austin Matthews. They've been Jake McCabe. Edmonton goals by Connor Brown, Ekholm, Jeff Skinner, Kitchener. Podol Skinner and Connor his 10th. And Calgary. Calgary goes home up 2-0, 8-4. Wolf beats Gibson, Kitchener. And I was up 4-1 at one point. Goals by Seagrass, Gauthier, Killorn, and for Toronto. Yeah, Cutter Gauthier looks pretty good. Lomberg, Uyghur, and then third period, Caranto, Huberdeau, Sakarovich, Uyghur, Carantato with the hat trick. Third period hat trick. Carolina beat Dallas, so they're split. Anderson beats DeSmith. Dallas goes by Dadonov and Wyatt Johnson. But Aho, Jarvis, and Roslovic for Carolina. Anyway, Toronto goes home 3-1. Starts beats Skinner. Nuge scored for Edmonton. A Nuge. Tavares, Nylander, and Marner for Toronto. Mitch Marner, Nylander. Game 3 of Anaheim, Calgary. Calgary wins in overtime. They're now 1 win away. Dostal loses to Wolf. Anaheim goes by Lacombe, Vetrano, Demoria, Lindstrom, and Carlson. Calgary goes by Nazem Kadri, Kitchener, then Kadri again, Coleman and Klapka in the third period, Rasmus Anderson, and then Kadri. If Kalor in the box from Coleman and Uyghur. So Kitchener doing his job. Dallas beats Carolina in overtime. Dallas was up 1-0 on Rupert Gold. Then Brett Burns tied it 1, and then Thomas Harley at 14:03 of overtime from Steele and Lindquist. Washington wins the fourth game 5 at least. 3-2. Thompson beats Gustafson. Washington goes by John Carlson, the legend Protas, and Tom Wilson. Minnesota goes by Kaprizov and Bogosian. Calgary, will they sweep in 4? No, Anaheim keeps going. Lucio beats Vladar. Terry Lacombe and Colangelo score for Anaheim. Hubie Dooby Doo for Calgary. Game 4, Dallas beats Carolina. Now they go home up 3-1. Ottinger beats Kakachov. Snatchnikov score for Carolina, but Heiskanen, Robertson, and Ben put up the goals for Dallas. Game 4, Washington, Minnesota. Minnesota is now 1 win away. They win 3-2. Gustafson over Lindgren. Washington goes by Protas and Ovi. Minnesota goes by Hinastria, Boldy, and Boldy. Toronto will lose game 4, so it's tied coming home. 5-1 Edmonton. Picker beats Dollars. Mitch Marner scored for Toronto, but Draisaitl, Evan Bouchard, Hyman, Nugent Hopkins, and Jeff Skinner. Kitchener with his 6th. Dallas beats Carolina 3-2 and wins in 5. So Dallas moves on to the semifinals. Auditor beats Kakachov. Carolina goes by Miko and Robinson. Because Manton is for Carolina. Dallas goes by Hintz, Duchesne, and Mason Marchment. Minnesota will lose game 5. They'll still go home up 3-2. Gustafson losing Thompson. Minnesota goes by Rossi and Rossi. Good old Marco Rossi. Connor McMichael, Tom Wilson, Fevery, Dylan Strome, and then Dylan Strome for Washington. Game 5, and Calgary cannot win, so the Ducks force a game 6, 5-2. Dust over Wolf. Calgary goes by Curato and Hubidoo. Cutter Gauthier with 2, Vetrano, and Minatukov. So Cutter Gauthier looking like he's the man in charge. Shut up, Cutter. Toronto Edmonton game 5, and Toronto will go home with the 3-2 lead. Will beat Skinner, Tavares, Nylander, Marner, and Nye scoring. Edmonton goes by Skinner, Kitchener, and Draisaitl. So Minnesota, will they win? The answer is yes. Minnesota sends Washington home 4-3. Fleury beats Lindgren. Washington goes by Dubois, McMichael, and Beauvillier. Minnesota goes by Brock Faber, Marco Rossi, Eriksson Ek, and Kaprizov is your winner. So Minnesota moves on. Minnesota, well, Gustafson's 8-2, Fleury's 4-1, Jasper What's-from there. So they won in 5-5-6. Kaprizov 17 points, Boldy and Rossi with 16 each. Dallas Auditor 8-1, DeSmith 4-3. Give Auditor credit. 7-4-5. The ones Robertson, Wyatt Johnson, Matthew Shane with 14 points. Yeah, Robertson only 3 points. Toronto will beat Edmonton, so Toronto goes to the semifinals 4-3. Hildenbeest beats Stuart Skinner, that is. Edmonton goes by Hyman, Skinner, Kitchener, and Draisaitl. Toronto goes by Nylander, Steven Lawrence, Nylander again, and Matthew Nyes. So the Leafs are in the semifinals somehow. So Stollers are 6-4. Joseph Wall 5-0. Put this guy Wall in the net every time. He'll be 1-1. 5-6-6. Marner 23 points. Nylander 22. Tavares 18. You have Philippe Myers, Frank Minton, Alex Steves, and Brandon Carlo with a point. And Calgary will go to Game 7. Calgary had a chance to take down the Ducks, and now the Ducks are in it. Russo beats both. Sherganovich for Calgary. Hellison, Leeson, Lacombe, Fratano, and Troy Terry for the Ducks. So the Ducks go again to a Game 7. Calgary was doing so well. 5-6. So the Ducks have to go to another Game 7. It will be Dostal versus Dustin Wolf, the star goalies. John Gibson could be playing, but he's not going to. The Flames, Nazem Kadri, Kitchener, Anthony Weekmer, Rasmus Anderson, Michael Backlund. Look at all these guys. And for Anaheim, they have Mason, McTavish, Troy Terry, Fratano, Leo Carlson. But Cutter Gauthier, who's like the 5th best goal scorer, in a sense, is doing his job. And Cam Fowler, the legend. Early on the Calgary's got to fight getting the reverse sweep aggression. And Calgary, it's Paco. And the Ducks survive. No, Gauthier cannot do it. Much later. It's Bacarano from Zellweger and Parker. Ducks. Getting close to the end. Victor McTavish from Dumoulin. Jason McTavish is people. That's one of the Ducks. What's our... Wow, we have only had 12 minutes of action. Okay. And the Ducks are up 3-0. Much later. Calgary takes a chance, but not there. Turn the clock. Gauthier gets hit. 10 minutes later, Hubert scores! Sully out of Michigan from Lacombe and Wichita. Calgary ain't gonna win. The Flames have just blown it. We could have seen 2 Canadian teams in the semifinals. But they score. Well, Nazem Kadri scores from Miromanov and Sherganovich. And that is 12 letters in his last name. Kadri. Kitchener! But the Ducks can't score. The Ducks have 4 games of 4-1. Calgary's in trouble. They are in trouble. Remember, Calgary had more points than Montreal. He's rattled. Do. And I'm going to hang on. 2 dots for 2. Every scores. Sherganovich from Toronto and Kadri makes it 4-2. This game's not over yet. And Pelagio from Rome. And Anaheim wins 5-2. Anaheim wins 5-2. It's like, how did Calgary take a 3? Calgary took a 3 games on lead, and it looked like we're going to see 2 Canadian teams in the Final Four, but they blow it. The Ducks win 5-2. Can you believe it? The Flames were up 5-4, 8-4, 6-5, so it looked over. And then it was 3-1, 5-2, 5-1, 5-2. The Flames could only score 6 goals in the last 4 games. They scored 6 goals in Game 3, and then they scored 6 goals in a 4-game period. The Ducks clamped down. Well, the Ducks, they swept Utah, but Rangers and Calgary have forced them though. Dostal 7-2, Gibson 3-3, Husso 2-1. So Cutter Gauthier, a guy I should like, he leads in points. Mason McTavish with 20 points and Troy Terry with 20 points. Gauthier leads in 12 goals. So the semifinals are the Leafs would have faced the Flames, Toronto, Anaheim, and Dallas, Minnesota. Well, that's going to be a contentious series, especially for the fact that, Dallas and Minnesota, Minnesota used to have the North Stars, and then Dallas took them away and made them the Stars. That's going to be contentious. And then Toronto, Anaheim. Toronto could fall to Anaheim. I mean, if Anaheim could reverse sweep Calgary, we're in trouble. Summary wise, Seth Jarvis, Nylander, and Cutter Guthier with 12 goals each. Points wise, Connor with 33, Draisaitl 26, Cutter 26, Strom 26. Those four guys are out. They're all out. Ottinger, Gustafsson, and Fleury are your goals against things. Well, Ottinger and Gustafsson are putting on numbers. They sure are. You know, Jonathan Quick had a 4-1 mark, Lindgren 4-6, but Lindgren has the better. And what's the clock? 15 minutes. So we're going to simulate, of course. Toronto Anaheim game 1 sees Toronto at home and winning 2-1. It was close. Gibson, Kitchener losing the Stolers. Mason McTavish scored for Anaheim. Willie Nylander, remembering who the hell he was, scores 2 goals. Dallas beats Minnesota 6-3 in game 1. Ottinger beats Fleury. It was tame. Blackwell for Dallas, Rossi for Minnesota through 2 periods, and then the goal scoring. Kaprizov scored twice, but Hintz, Ben, Johnston, Harley, and Robertson for Dallas. Game 2, Minnesota beats Dallas 3-1 as Gustafsson beats Ottinger. Ben scored for Dallas. Hartman, Foligno, and Eriksson Ek, all threes. Everything comes in threes. The Leafs will beat Anaheim 4-1. Wholl beats Dostal. Colangelo scored for Anaheim. Marner, Matthews, and Lorenz doing their job for the Leafs. Game 3 sees the Leafs win again 2-1 as Stolarz beats Dostal. Leeson scoring. Tanev and Matthews for Toronto. So Toronto has been like low scoring, but they're up 3-0. Well, the Ducks are screwed. Or you think that way. I don't think so. Dallas shuts out Minnesota to take the lead. The Smith beats Gustafsson, Sagan, Duchesne, and Wyatt Johnson doing his job. Game 4 sees Dallas beat Minnesota, so Dallas is 1 win away. Ottinger beats Fleury, Sagan, and Wyatt for Dallas, Foligno for Minnesota. I think that you practically have to get to the final. The third place team in 24-25 will not make it on merit. Game 4 sees the Leafs. The Leafs do what the Flames couldn't do and sweep the team. Leafs win 4-3. Wholl beats Gibson. Poor John Gibson. I feel bad for him. And I'm goes by Segrist, and Vetrano. Connor Gauthier did nothing. So the guy with my nickname as his first name couldn't score a goal on my favorite HL team. Robertson, and Nylander are your goal scorers for the Leafs, and the Leafs sweep the Ducks. And we'll move on to the final. That does mean the 24-25 Leafs will make the 14th season Tournament of Champions as a top 2 team. I can't believe it. I didn't think Toronto would get to the final. Game 5 sees Dallas win 4-2. A little bit of hiccup. So it's Leafs, Stars. Ottinger beats Gustafsson. Minnesota goals by Rossi and Faber. Dallas goals by Ben, Duchesne, Robertson, and Wyatt. So it's the battle of the Robertsons. Jason versus Nick. Dallas left. Ottinger's 11-2. They got to put him in almost every game now. The Otter. Jason Smith hasn't done that badly. So they faced LA in the first round. They were up 3-0. They knew they got reverse swept. And then since then, they've only lost twice to Ottawa, Carolina, and Minnesota combined. So Dallas basically could have, if they had 4-0 LA like they should have, Dallas would have been like the heavy favorites, only losing twice to get this far. Wyatt Johnson, 21 points. Jason Robertson, 19. Ruby Hintz, 19. Niels Lindquist and Brandon Smith, the only points. For the Leafs, I never would have thought that. The Leafs, Stolarz 8-4. Joseph Wall 7-for-7. Dude, you need to put Joseph Wall in the net. He's 7-0. And he'll be 1-1. Leafs took out Florida in 5, St. Louis in 6, Edmonton in 6, and Anaheim in 4. So they've had a little bit of hiccup with St. Louis and Edmonton. But the fact is that the Leafs have been on fire, only losing 5 times. I think, Dallas has only lost 5 times too. Mitch Marner, 27 points. Willie Nylander, 26. Austin Matthews, 23. Tavares, 20. So those 4 guys are scoring points. There's no tomorrow. Philip Myers, Fraser Minton, Alex Steves, and Brandon Carlo are the guys who have basically got a point and all that. So that's it. Summary-wise, Nylander's got 16 goals, and he's practically got the goal scoring title. The points title, McDavid, Marner's now jumped up to second, 27 points. So Marner will have to have a great playoff to try to catch Connor McDavid, even though that Connor went out in the quarters. Ottinger, Gustafson, and Wholl are your best goalies. Ottinger, if the Otter could do something, Dallas could be a heavy favorite. So the 13th season tourney of champs is the 32 teams. Yeah, the 13 seasons that 1 to 26 were the guys who've been were runners up in the seasonal tournament and all that, right? Yeah, in the seasonal tournament. So yeah, the 24 Sabres somehow made the finals. So like 27 to 32 were third place teams. 27 was the 06 Oilers. They won this. They went to the finals. 28 were the 71 Hawks who lost the final. 29 was the 2024 Oilers who lost the final. 30 was the 79 Rangers who lost the final. 31 was the 65 Leafs who went out in the semifinals in real life. And 32 was the 75 Habs who went out in the semifinals. So by that logic, Minnesota and Anaheim didn't make the playoffs. Minnesota went out in the first round. So actually, if Dallas had faltered and lost the semifinals, they would have probably been given a shot to sneak in and get one of the wild cards. But no, they didn't. So Minnesota is technically third because they won a game in the semifinals. Anaheim didn't. So Minnesota technically would be third. But unfortunately, because Minnesota did not do well in the playoffs, they won't get one of the wild card spots. So basically, what ends up happening is whoever wins Dallas Toronto will be given a spot from 1 to 14. I think it's probably going to be like 7 downwards. I don't know what the numbers are like. So yeah, Dallas and Toronto. Whoever wins will get a spot from 1 to 14. Whoever takes second will be 15 to 28. And then, of course, the last four guys, 29, 32, will be based off of, well, whoever went to 27, 28, 29, and 30. So four of the six teams who were third placers in the last tournament, well, because they made it in. I forget. I think the 75 Habs and the 65 Leafs are out. Yeah, the 75 Habs and 65 Leafs will be replaced because yeah. So Dallas and Toronto from 2025 will the Leafs in 2025. I can't believe it. They're going to get a spot, a top 28 spot, no matter what. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, the finals next time. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. Adieu.